10 more seconds before we start. Ladies and gentlemen, next on the agenda is Mr. Graham's workshop on integrating sustainability in your teaching. The workshop will allow you to work together to look at short and straightforward approaches that take minimal time to adapt pre-existing course materials to allow sustainability perspectives to be integrated and used in class. Mr. Graham will share his ideas with us all while establishing channels of ongoing cooperation to maintain the momentum after the conference. Christopher, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right, I know it's difficult. Right, that's better. It's always difficult the afternoon. We call it the graveyard session because not hopefully everybody's going to die, but you might fall asleep. Before we come to that, just a couple of things. One thing is not related to today. Some of you might know that I'm the incoming president of IATEFL, which is the huge teacher association. I'll be president from the summer. I'm vice president now. Every year we have scholarships for our conference, as some of you may know. The scholarships are opening for 2026 conference. They'll be closing in June. So if you have an idea, and it has to be something novel, it has to be something new, it has to be something different that you would be interested in presenting, go to iatefl.org, which is the website, and click through, and you'll find the area for scholarships and consider applying. There are many different scholarships, all with different requirements. Most of them, but not all, require you to do a presentation. So you've got to be happy and confident to stand up in front of a group of strangers from all over the world and do your presentation. The amount of funding varies. Some is 100% funded. They pay for the flight, they pay for the accommodation, the visa, and a food allowance. Some are slightly less. It depends on the sponsor. Some of them are commercially sponsored by publishers. Some of them are just by private individuals, and we sponsor some of them ourselves from the charity. So if you're interested, it's not that far away, June. 2026 conference will be in Brighton on the south coast of the UK again. So well, I thought it was easy to get to, but Adi said it was very difficult to get to. Anyway, it's there. So if you're interested, we'd be delighted to have you coming. And I believe 6 of you are coming to speak in Edinburgh this year in the conference. Are there any of them here? Yep. 1, any more? 2, any more? Oh, the other 4 have run away. Okay, fair enough. They've seen what it's like. If you want to come and find me and have a chat about the conference and things, be delighted to talk to you. But we'll have lots of people this year. 2,200 maybe. Not just in your talk, but generally. That's the maximum. Well, they might let the other 2,000 in, we'll see. Anyway, so that's the first thing I wanted to say. So but if you're interested in a scholarship, trip to the UK, and why not? If you've got something to say, that's the key. What the people who award the scholarships look at is this new? Is this different? Is this unusual? Because we get a lot of scholarships telling people what they already know, what we already know. I think it's got to be something unusual, different. Anyway, have a look, and that's one thing. Second thing, as Tatiana mentioned, there is this British Council MOOC, Massive Open Online Course, around ELT and sustainability, and the deadline is the end of March, wasn't it? Yes. So that's a free online course. it must be about the 5th or 6th time that it's been run. You have to be pretty motivated. Whether any of you have ever done a MOOC, a Massive Open Online Course, I have registered for probably about 10 and finished precisely 0. It's easy to remember at varying stages, and that's no criticism of the course. It's criticism of my lack of organisation probably, but it's a great course. I mean, it's really interesting. So you haven't got long to apply for it. Adi is going to get the link to you all, so it's just to click through and apply, and it's completely free. But you know, it does take time. It depends on your time for that. It's in people's minds, I think. So I want to start off by looking back at the plenary session. That's my garden, about 3 weeks ago. To look back at the plenary session, some kind of learnings from that we might need to apply in this practical session. So let's think, first of all, there are 2 ways that we can approach bringing, so these are the same slides as this morning, more or less, that we can approach bringing sustainability into classes. One way is taking our course book, looking at it and saying, there's a hook, there's fashion, we could work on fast fashion. There's shopping, we can talk about, you know, cloth shopping bags or paper shopping bags, those kind of hooks. So we can work with the materials that we have. And like I said, the last thing, collate and share is really important so we don't waste hours repeating the same thing. Do it once, share it. Share it in your school, institution, teachers association, however you're organised. So that's one thing. We can take our course books and try and adapt lessons. Now, I think we asked you to bring some course books with you. Yeah, well, look at that. She's very proud of herself. She's the only person that has, I think. English teachers are quite bad at taking instruction, in my experience. So my default was that if I ask people to do something, they'll never do it. And it looks like only one person who's very proud of herself. But I'm told by the British Council that all of you have an encyclopedic memory of your course books, and you can say, oh, I remember page 72 exactly. So we'll test that in a minute. Anyway, so one thing to do is to take your existing course materials and think, how could I adapt without too much fuss, without too much time? So that's one thing we might look at this afternoon. So some of you might, when I set you the task, choose to think of your course book and think, okay, I know this lesson, or I have my book, if you're smart and ahead of the crowd and you've got your book. Let me look at this and we'll talk in a group and then share how we might adapt it. The other thing we can do, of course, is to make a lesson or just an activity from 0. I mean, from 0 in the sense it's not in the course book. It could be something that you think, well, that could replace that or supplement that, however you want to do it, but writing something from 0. And we talked about these things, remembering relevance. You know, students will engage much more with something that is somehow linked to a local impact. It's something that they have an emotional, affective kind of relationship with. All these issues around eco-grief, the sense of hopelessness, anxiety are very, very important. With all ages, actually. I think particularly teenagers, because teenagers are anxious about everything anyway. So we just make them even more anxious by doing this. So I think they're perhaps the worst. University students are better, and small children are actually better too, oddly, I think. And about the complexity of text and the complexity of content. Sometimes you read an article about climate change, and think, I didn't understand any of that, because the science is very heavy. In here this afternoon, the first speaker, where is she? Can't see her now, was talking about CLIL. Actually, that sits very, very well integrating content. It sits very, very well with climate change. If you sit with a geography teacher or biology teacher and take some of their content and deliver it bilingually or deliver it in English, going off at a slight tangent, when I first started teaching millions of years ago, it was forbidden to use, literally forbidden to use the first language of the students. It was just not a thing that you did. Times have changed. And I think sort of quite complex topics related to sustainability do lend themselves very well to some kind of blend between using the first language, students' first language, and English. And that's where, the science teacher brings in an article, that they can read in Armenian, and then you discuss issues around it in English. I think all these things, for me, the biggest advantage that you have, all of you, over me, is you speak the student's first language, which is such a powerful, that's another discussion. But I think in this it lends itself to it quite well. So we can develop lessons or an activity from zero, from scratch. We can do that. Remember these UN sustainability goals. Quick Google on your phone, you can find them. These 17 goals, which are all interconnected. Poverty, hunger, inequality, and some of them related to climate action, life below water, and so on. So all of these are great sources of ideas for what if you're going to think of a lesson from zero. They're called the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. If you just Google UN SDGs, it will send you straight to that site. Well, thank you. My voice is probably going again. Another thing to think about, practical projects, cleaning up. There's a park in London after some people had a picnic and decided to leave it for somebody else to clear up. Every city in the world has this challenge, I think. An actual picking up can be made into a language project. Even with fairly young learners, they can go out and then they count and write how many bottles, how many plastic bottles, how many glass bottles, how many, whatever it is they found, and they collate it, make a poster. That kind of project lends itself to that. Makes me quite annoyed, but there we are. Other things to remember. We've spoken about these, eco-anxiety, complexity of concepts, all these kinds of things. That's fine. We can think about that. These are things to keep in your minds. I talked to you about Daniel Goleman. See what you can't see. The idea that we should be teaching students not just to base their learning on their own experience, but on other people's experiences. Because at the moment, the issues around climate change, particularly, the impact on Armenia is not massive compared to other countries, though it's coming, I suspect, as it's coming to all of us in the Northern Hemisphere. So Daniel Goleman stuff as well. So that's the kind of things to bear in mind. So we'll let David Bowie tell us to get started, and there he goes. That's a great picture of him, which I did not take. I took someone else's picture. I'm going to leave you two choices. I'm going to ask you to work in pairs, or threes or fours, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to try and organize you, because organizing English language teachers is like organizing cats. It's absolutely impossible. They go in all directions, and I'm not going to lose control if I can possibly avoid it. British Council are fully trained to manage you if anyone is disorderly or badly behaved. One option is to create an adaptation, as I said, of something in one of your course books. It may be something you can just remember. If you've got your book, like our hero here, fine. If not, you can probably picture one. Could just be an activity. So identify an activity, and chatting with your colleague or colleagues, create a kind of draft, an outline of how you might adapt it to integrate a climate or sustainability topic. And I'll give you more ideas in a minute. So that's option one. Option two is to write something from zero. So identify a topic and then create an activity that is not in your course book. Could be tied in with something in the course book, could replace something in the course book, or could just be freestanding. Doesn't matter. I don't know which is easier, option one or option two, but we'll come to it in a second. Once you've written something, I'll ask you to share it and discuss it. Probably share it with somebody else, and we'll share a few maybe at the front if we've got time. And then finally, you can make a final version of it. But that's the task, but I want to give you a little bit of support. Scaffolding, that's the word I'm looking for. Let's think of a few topics that you might use, a few themes that you might explore. These are what I call subtopics of all around climate change. One thing you might explore in a lesson might be the causes. What causes it globally, nationally, locally, and personally? It could be a lesson around students' own footprint or their footprint in their house. Do they always switch off the electricity at night, the TV, phone chargers, all this stuff. It could be a lesson. That's a lesson. It's a great lesson. Trying to understand their own family's impact on the environment. You know, do they go everywhere by car or do they use public transport? All these kind of questions. It could be that. And that brings to the second one, mitigation of personal impacts. Could they change what they do? Could they behave differently? You know, obviously young children tend to come to school with parents, but older students, well, you know, do they need to do that? Can they get public transport? All these kinds of things. Do many children or teenagers cycle to school? Is that common? No. Because of the danger on the roads. Yeah, I can kind of imagine that. But all these kinds of things, you know, and so if the roads are not good enough, what can you do about that? Can you sort of lobby the city and say, come on, we need cycle lanes, cycle paths? I don't know. All these kinds of things could come from a lesson. The results of climate change problems: water, heat, food supply, sanitation, conflict, physical health. That's another lesson, possibly. Another lesson might be around equity of impact. It impacts certain people more than it impacts others, and what can we do about that? As I said, you know, the global north produces most of the problem. The global south feels the impact of most of the problem, and that's a pretty big challenge that we're all facing. Local or regional impacts. What could your students see, or what has happened in Armenia or regionally that can be attributed to climate change? And very often they don't realize that that's what it is. Like I said, I talked about floods to some students from Czechia, I think it was. And they didn't make the connection. But these floods, that's what caused it. Oh, that climate change thing made it. Oh, okay. Whoa, that's pretty bad. Yeah, it is. That's what I told you. So it could be something like that. Local responses. Is there anything that the city is doing? Is there anything that your school is doing? I don't know, the ministry is doing around the response to it. And what can you do? That's another question for students. What can you do in terms of your behaviors or whatever? So they're just ideas, but I want to build it a little bit more. Let's come back to life again. Oh, sorry, that's rather small. Actually, it's not that small. Activity types. You could make an activity that is just a standard reading text. You can imagine a reading text. You could do that. You could make a standard reading kind of activity, you know, read, listen, reading activity, listening activity, questions, follow-up activity. You could think about language or skills, specific piece of English grammar that lends itself to discussion. I mean, the conditionals are pretty good for that. If we don't, if we do, ... So that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of aspects of language that relate very easily, as I said, to, I mean, the conditionals, excuse me, is one that just springs to mind because a lot of climate action is dependent upon something actually happening. If we do this, if we don't do this, this is going to happen. So that's something to think about. Or skills. We're going to talk more about 21st century skills tomorrow, but it's been touched on in a couple of other speakers today. Critical thinking, creativity, communication. How do we communicate the message? If you're in a high school, maybe they could make posters for younger students about climate issues. All these sorts of things. That could be an activity type. In-class project work. For me, a project is something that has an outcome, a physical outcome at the end, a practical outcome. So it could be an in-class project could be talking about 5 things you can do in your house, consider doing in your house, get mum and dad to do in the house and make it into a poster or a checklist or a picture or a diagram, something with an output in English. Dear mum and dad, please remember to do it in English, it's fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch the lights off at night. You know, whatever things come up. Out of class project work, when students go out of school or out of house, pick up litter, clean up riverbanks, all these things. Count how many cigarette butts they pick up. a friend of mine who's actually one of the plenary speakers at IATEFL, he's Harry Waters. He and his daughter, who is 10, have formed a project called something Pickers. Ali, she's only 10, she's a kid, high school kid. She now goes all over Europe showing how high school kids how to pick up cigarette butts. Yeah, just a little bit that's left, and they count them. And it's just amazing. It's not thousands, it's tens of thousands that they pick up. So that kind of stuff. And remember, we're language teachers, so the task is not just to pick up cans or bottles, it's to do something linguistically, which could be a one paragraph. It could be a diagram. It could be a chart with percentages of bottle. It could be anything. It could be a report. It could be a presentation to another class. Doesn't matter. But I always emphasize, I mean, I said at the beginning, you're not English teachers, you're teachers, but you are still English teachers. So there's got to be a usually linguistic or skill element. Or activism, you know, what could they do? Could they write letters? Could they write blogs? I don't know. I say it depends on your context. So those are the various ideas. But I'm giving you a blank piece of paper, effectively. So I'd like you to work, as I say, in a pair or group or three. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't know the person. You meet new friends or make new enemies, depending on how it goes. We'll see. Make sure you've got a pen and paper. Again, teachers don't always have pens and paper, but I assume you've got that. And I'll give you about 20 minutes-ish to come up with something. It could be an adaptation of a lesson that you know about, or an activity you know about, or something completely new. It's not going to be, I'm not expecting something ready for class at all. I'm thinking of an idea, a blueprint, a plan, that's all. I just want to get you thinking and see how difficult or how easy this is. Clue, it's quite difficult, but anyway, we'll see. You can, obviously, most of you have got, if you're not on the internet here, it's, I can't remember the password, it's, what's the room called? No, it's the name of the room, I can't remember. It's Annie12345, I think, with a capital A. So you can go online. You might want to look at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals website. It's up to you what you do. I mean, you just click climate education. Google goes berserk. There's lots of stuff. But as I'm not expecting ready-to-use lesson plans at all. I'm expecting ideas. So organize yourself into groups or pairs. I mean, I would say three is probably ideal, 3 or 4 people. If it's with a colleague, that's quite nice because you're in the same context, but it doesn't matter. I'll be sort of, if you get stuck, put your hand up and I'll try and help you, or probably make it worse, but I'll try to help you. A couple of British Council people will be around to help as well, but yeah, this is up to you. Right, so we'll finish this at about 10 past 4, yeah? About 20 minutes. And then I will I will encourage 1 or 2 people to, when we finish, to kind of tell us what you did, what you thought about. And also I'm interested, how difficult was it? How easy was it? Right, 20 minutes, off you go. You have to move, you have to get active, don't just sit there looking at me. That won't work. It's a shared screen, isn't it? They can do it in there, yeah. Oh, he's doing it now.
You want to go through the site or you just want to show?
I'd like to be able to click links. Is that complicated? We haven't got a mouse either.
Yeah. So that's but we can do it. I mean,
Let's see. It should just some.
he knows English very well. So if you instruct me, the guy is going to go and you say, okay, scroll down, click on that.
Let's do that. Yeah. Let's just get the landing page ready. Yeah. Because some of them are away. They're really good. Some have got no clue. So those who are struggling. Okay. British Council have got. I mean, there's 12 lesson plans on there already. Download, different levels, all different levels.
You want climate change in
Climate
action in
climate
education
yes.
page.
Climate action in language education.
Language education. Teaching English website.
Yeah. You're halfway through. Some people are making good progress. They tell me. Other people are not. The main thing is that if they could see the link, they can then go on their phone or whatever they've got.
Kayıt internet çıkamıyor sonra.
Annie, capital A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
R.
page which lists all the resources. That's very hard to find. No, what, you put British Council in, yeah? Okay. That one. It was the first one, I think. I think it's that one. That's it. Everything's there. you
Everything is there. Thanks. Just while you're playing around with the mouse, it's an extended screen, so it just disappears because it goes over there.
Oh, okay.
So just be careful not to go on this screen.
But it's not projecting, is it?
It's projected on two sides, not the main one. So if you want to check it, you just do it.
There it is. Okay. Okay, Ade, if you stay here, can I give you the instructions when we come to it? If you are, because yeah. Thanks, yeah. I'll be in about 5 minutes or so. Okay. Wow, it's working. No. So, how easy or difficult was that? Some of you seem to engage. Don't worry about that yet. That's cheating information that you'll get in a minute. It's gone. Fantastic. I know I want it gone because they're going to cheat otherwise. Some of you seem to absolutely engage quickly, and there was lots of activity and writing. Some of you did. Some of you, I have to qualify that. Others were a bit slower to get started. Others, I think, didn't get started at all. So there's a mixture of people, and that is pretty much what I would expect. It would be ridiculous to have, I don't know how many people there are here now, 150, for all of you to say, yeah, fantastic. Life is not like that. I wish it were. I mean, I'd be unemployed if it were. So that's perfectly normal. So it's just getting some understanding of the process. And it's actually difficult. I mean, if you've already done a little bit of teaching around these themes, then you're fine because you're kind of prepared. But it's a lot easier if you've got your course book in front of you. And when you look at the course book, you might think, oh, there's nothing. You think, oh, wait, that's it. Yes, 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 yes. And suddenly you've got 10 or 12 things from your course book that you can build around. So I know it's difficult. So what I'd like to do now, I'd like to ask for 3 volunteers to come forward and describe what you did. Yes, first volunteer, here she comes. Okay, in a minute, this is number 1. Just a general 3-minute outline. Yeah?
All right. Okay. Oh, with microphone. Okay. So, what is it? Yeah, I was lucky to have a course book attend. So, I listened to you. I was lucky to listen to the instructions given by other. Yes. Again, it's a matter of luck. But right. So I found a unit that describes possible. Well, the headline is possible. What is that? Possible futures. Okay. The book is Roadmap B2 level. Okay, Pearson. So the unit is about possible futures, and I try to lift things up from the course book, as you advised. It begins with a vocabulary matching task, and some of the phrases here were quite relevant to what I had in my mind. I chose, out of 10 phrases, I chose 3 predictions about the future: poverty, energy efficiency, and living standards. So in my lesson, I would present these 3 sets to my students, asking them to think about these phrases and to make predictions about them. For example, poverty will increase, energy efficiency will increase, and living standards will rise. To what extent do you agree or disagree about the near future and the far future as well, okay? Prediction, yes. So I wouldn't go into details in terms of meaning and form. Hopefully it's a B2 level and they already know these phrases. So my aim is to raise awareness about the ecological issues and sustainability. So having discussed the topics, my stage 2 would be providing them with a jigsaw reading. Here we have a reading task, but it's not a jigsaw reading. It's just 3 tasks asking students to match the headlines with the paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. What I would do, I would divide the class into 3 groups, asking them to find a suitable title. So instead of them reading 3 boring texts, long texts, they would read 1 text per group and then exchange ideas. Okay, and here I look through the text. They're not really about the eco problems and sustainability. So I would create my text from scratch, meaning I would include a problem about poverty, energy efficiency, and what was the last one? Living standards. So they could read, and that would raise their awareness. That would put them in the right context and the topic. And then they could discuss with each other what they have read and what conclusion they came to. I mean, they would be provided with problems without solutions. in the end results would be like the last stage would be now in small groups try to find solutions to these problems, okay? And then in this way they would just go home heavier with the knowledge, and their awareness would be risen, you know, let's think about poverty in a different way, and then life standards, how could we change things, how could we use energy more effectively, efficiently. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, I'm done. Yes, it will take a time. It will take time, but then you can use it again. Yes, 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 yes. True. Thank you.
Right, can we have another one? Go on then. I've actually got lots of volunteers. All right, no, they're all from this side. Right, just 3 minutes, please, or we're going to run out of time. There you go.
In our group, diverse group from regions, we discussed and finally came to a conclusion, and we decided to choose the option about mitigation of personal impacts, how to educate our young learners, or say learners from ages to 17, and how to turn this idea into something that is tangible. So that's why we decided to concentrate on a maybe 3-month term project, which will be conducted in collaboration with the students and the parents as well. So we decided that first of all we will discuss the topic about how to be eco-friendly and how to help our families. We know that Armenia is a developing country, and especially in regions there are let's say there's like lots of families in need, let me not use the word poor, and for them each 100 dram matters. So that's why we will collaborate with the parents, come to a kind of agreement that for each month they will start just to spot the bills for gas, bills for electricity and water, and students will discuss different options, like how to follow that the father switches off the tap while shaving, or mom uses not the running water for washing the dishes or the like, and they will kind of be really consistent. And the next month when the bills come and they see that, for example, let's say it is 3,000 less than the previous month, then as a kind of motivation, students will get some more money, some more pocket money, and in this way, like parents and the students and the teachers as well will continue their collaboration till hopefully it becomes to a kind of routine. Yeah, that's it. I hope I was as short as possible.
So that's a really nice, I mean, using the parents or using the children to bully the parents is a really nice one, actually, because and in fact, parents are always really happy when their children come home and say, well, my teacher says we need to do this. Well, they're not always happy, but usually they kind of quite like it because they feel that the child's engaging and blah, 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 all of that stuff. So it's nice, you know, and like you say, it only may save a very small amount of money, but there is an impact around that. But above all, there's an awareness. Do we have a volunteer from this side of the room? Oh, I'll come to you in a minute. Dear, I'm fighting people. This side? Come on then. No, at the back.
Okay, so I would like to present an activity that I do in my classroom. I teach very young learners, starting ages from 2 to 5. And just because I cannot make them talk, express their thoughts about the topic, that's very difficult for them to understand at this age, what we do is we make this process fun for them. For example, once before the class started, I have turned on all the lights in the preschool, littered around with paper, plastic, and waste. And I have also turned on the tap water in all the bathrooms. When I came to the classroom, I had two pictures of the globe, crying and happy, and explained them that if you want to save the planet, to be happy again, you should be the heroes. And I have prepared crowns for them with the bulb on one of the crowns, water, paper, plastic, and waste. So they got those crowns on their heads, and we started walking around the preschool, entering the classrooms. When they saw that this light was on, they turned it off. We went to the bathroom, turned off the water. We collected the waste, the litter around the preschool. And we came to the classroom, made a craft out of that waste, the paper, the bottles, the bottle caps, and they became heroes. Understanding that it's very difficult for me to teach them the concept, I have focused on just turning the light off, making a habit. So every time they turn the light off, I give them a sticker, or I reward them with a crown or a badge of a superhero.
So you see, even with very small children, you can do it. And she's kind of gamified it, because they get badges, they get labeled as, I'm coming to, I haven't forgotten you. She's really, it better be good after all this. Small children and teenagers like gamification, the idea of getting a badge, of being slightly competitive. They're engaging, and she to get through the language barrier, she did a practical demonstration through paper on the floor, left all the lights on and turned on the taps. The kids could see it. What's happening? What's happening? Why are we doing this? That's all we need. Really nice. It's going to be really good, this one. It better be, as I say.
First of all, thank you very much. And I have seen that 3 our volunteers, when they came here, they didn't represent themselves, so I would like to know them. My name is Gemma. I am from PAS Center, and thank you very much for the volunteers who came here to present their ideas, curriculum of their teaching program, and it was really useful, and I have mentioned in my copybook that some of them were repeated, so I will turn to you too. So I think it's high time for me to tell. So listening to your presentation about climate change, immediately, unfortunately, I didn't have a group to work with. It would be much more useful and probably much more interesting. But anyway, I do hope that I did my best, and I focused on climate change. And let's imagine I have a group in front of me, and if I start to talk about climate change, I will define it to make them understand what it means. So climate change education is education that aims to address and develop effective responses to climate change. Later, I will raise a question: how to improve climate education? And what they should do, the most important, that I will advise them to write their own water conservation law. Yes, law, that we should follow all the rules. And the activities can be to fulfill social studies requirements. Under it, I do understand, and I will explain them. Of course, I will leave them to choose what do they understand under it. Then I will add more. I do understand under it simulation, project implementation, questions and answers. By the way, the first volunteer talked about that. If I'm not mistaken, you too. As well as discussion method. Second, can be focused on both problems and solutions. Our presenters, volunteers, they talked about it. I like the game part because I included it too. I will lean on simulation and games. Simulation, I do understand that I can help students to learn more about it and to negotiate, which is very important, group work, that in the beginning I mentioned. Unfortunately, I didn't have that opportunity today. But I will add also games that can help students to gain a range of perspectives on an issue and engage in realistic tasks that mimic daily life. What else is left? Probably the last point will be to connect climate change to the existing curriculum, to connect global issues to our local ones. That's the project that I have managed to sketch. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
That's a different approach again. As she said, there are similarities, but linking to the curriculum, you know, the school Ministry of Education curriculum, local problems, global problems, local problems, and water. I mean, there is a great app somewhere where you can calculate how much water you use in your household, and it's absolutely terrifying. I mean, people are using, just regular 4-family houses are using hundreds of litres a day. You just put in, you know, shower and washing machine and washing the whatever, you know, and kids are absolutely horrified when they realise how much water they've used. I can't remember the link, but you can find them. Really, just another approach. I like that one because it's embedded within the curriculum. We talked about social studies, and you can link it to geography and all these things. So, great. Right, the last thing I want to do, can we get the website back, Ade, please? Yeah, and then can you... Okay, this website is the British Council Climate Change or Climate Action in Language Education. I don't know how we can share the link with them. Is it just best that they Google Climate Action Language Education? I think the best way to find this link is to Google British Council Climate Action in Language Education, and this is like the portal. If you scroll down a little bit, please. Stop. Thank you. Yeah. So the one at the top is the MOOC, the course we talked about before. The one that's open until the end of March. Click through there if you're interested. The next ones are the podcasts underneath that Diana mentioned. The podcasts are really, really good. I'm only on 2 of them, so don't listen to them. But they're teachers all over the world doing basically what I've just asked you to do. Talking about projects, ideas, classes. It's a great way to source. And there's also people from mainstream education, not English language education, who are doing things on climate change as well. So the podcasts are really good. The next ones are lesson plans. I have to declare an interest. I'm one of the authors of that, but we've been paid, so if you download it, we don't get any more money. Just make that clear. There are 12 different lesson plans there. Most can be used at different levels. Some can be used online only. Some can be used face-to-face only, or combinations. And you just download them and use them. And the idea behind the lesson plans was we wrote them in the way that you can use them, but you can also use them as a model to generate more according to where you're working. So, and there's a booklet that goes with them. You can download that. There is, I don't know whether this competition is going to be repeated, but we ask schools around the world to make videos about their climate action and English language teaching classes. Even if the competition doesn't run again, the stuff you can show your students, saying what can be done. This is what kids in Japan are doing. This is what kids are in France are doing, or whatever it is. So it's quite interesting. And the last one here is a really interesting blog about activism with young learners against eco-anxiety. And any of you who, some of you might be members of IATEFL, I don't know if you are. If you're a member of IATEFL, our latest journal, which came out this week, IATEFL Voices, I wrote an article in it about climate change education and anger. And I was thinking about this. I thought, if we make people angry about destroying the planet, will it make them engage more? I thought it was my genius idea. It turned out it wasn't, because a group of academics in Australia have done some research, and they found out that the angrier people are, the more likely they will engage and do something about it. But very interestingly, their personal mental health gets better I thought that was really interesting. So my article is about making students angry, basically, which is something I never thought I would have to write. But so there we are. And that's not the article, but it ties in with the idea of balancing people getting involved against eco-anxiety. So there's lots of resources there. So I just wanted to show you that. I would say if you just Google British Council Climate Action Language Education, there's no other way we can share the link. Or can you share it with them later? So BC will share it with you through their channel, so you can go there as well. And remember, everything on the British Council website is free, or almost everything. So there's no payment involved. Right, that's me done for that, for today. Before you clap, tomorrow, if some of you could bring some course books, that might be useful. If you've got any hidden away in your house, if you could bring them in, that would be useful. We can do something, a similar thing tomorrow afternoon around 21st century skills. If you don't bring them, it doesn't matter, but it's easy if you do. Right, you can clap now. That's it. I've done.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As we draw to a close on this truly amazing first day of our conference, I want to take a moment to reflect on the wealth of knowledge shared and the meaningful connections made. Throughout the day, thanks to our speakers and panelists, we've had the privilege of delving into a range of ELT topics and insightful discussions. During breaks and networking sessions, I also noticed many of you exchanging ideas and building new friendships and potential partnerships, which is great. These interactions are what truly enrich the conference experience. So as we wrap up the first day of our conference, I encourage you to carry the momentum forward. Tomorrow holds even more opportunities for learning, networking, and growth. So let's approach it with the same enthusiasm. To fully benefit from Christopher's session tomorrow, as he's already mentioned, please, would you mind bringing your own course books, the ones that you use in your own classrooms? It will be easier, but as Christopher said, it's okay if you don't, but that would be great. So once again, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the speakers and attendees for being part of this incredible event. Your presence and participation were instrumental to making this conference a success. Thank you very much. So let's rest and recharge and return tomorrow with renewed energy and enthusiasm. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.